Yes, 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Good morning. 748. Mr. Pollock is here. Bob Pollock with the Extension Service, brought to us by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Wonderful. If you want to call and ask Bob a question, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. You can also get us through Facebook. Jake is monitoring that, so if you have a question there, I have a question for you. Because I saw Penn State put out a big article about what used to be known as gypsy moth, which now is known as spongy moth, which is on the rebound here in this year for the second year in a row, and next year is going to be even worse. So for people who don't know what spongy moth is and the devastation it can wreak, what should we be doing about it right now?
Well, around here we don't have to really do anything.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't come here. But it's been here before.
They
so
said
gypsy
central
moth,
and northwestern, especially right now.
Yeah, like Center County State College area and east into Clinton County and up in that area and across. It's been heavy populations of good old gypsy moth. Mm-hmm. But the moth itself doesn't really cause the problem. It's the caterpillars that feed on the foliage, and oak trees are especially one of the species that they prefer.
Oh, yeah.
And back in the mid-'80s, when they came through here, we had 2 or 3 years that were really heavy. You could hardly walk outside without squashing them.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
Or having them everywhere, or having their feces raining down from the tree.
We call them tent moths too, don't we?
Well, not really.
No?
There's the eastern tent caterpillar, which makes the tents.
Yeah, okay.
All right. And then there's also the fall webworm, which builds a tent, a silken tent around its body. Mm-hmm. But the gypsy moth, they are the ones that are pretty colorful caterpillars. They're a little hairy, but they'll have the series of red dots and blue dots on their body, which helps distinguish them from other species of caterpillars. Mm-hmm. But at that time, when they came through originally, 2 or 3 years of defoliation, there was a lot of hardwood trees, especially oaks, that, you could look up as you were driving on the ridges and things, and they were just devoid of leaves. A lot of them were able to re-leaf, but that takes a lot of energy to do that. And so we had a lot of oaks that didn't make it through, 2 or 3 years in succession of being de-leafed. So now that's going on again. And we've had, over the years, we've had pockets of that.
Yeah.
Where, you'd have a population build up, but very localized. Mm-hmm. But this is much more widespread. Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a call this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Dr. Bob.
Good morning.
I can't even think of the word, maybe chagrined, about my carrots and beets. I have 5 rows of each of them, and they haven't germinated. And I treated, I sowed them the way they're supposed to be sowed, covered them with, a light coating of soil and moss type stuff, and also in there was some compost from recycling center, and I'm wondering if, since compost from the recycling center would have grasses that were treated with pre-emergence, I'm wondering if after 4 years that would have any effect, or do you have some other thoughts?
He's chagrined. He's also flummoxed by this.
Yes, he's flummoxed? Okay.
All right. That's an interesting question, though. If something has been pre-treated for pre-emergent, weeds and then is a part of a compost pile, does that treatment survive?
Yes, that treatment can survive. Each individual pre-emergent herbicide has a lifespan. It has different characteristics. Some are very persistent, and some even trace amounts, might not affect a lot of things, but there are things that it could affect the germination on, including grass seed. But so how many years
if I can
ago
interrupt for a moment,
was that applied?
I have beans that came up, spinach that came up. It seems everything with the exception of the spinach, with large seeds has germinated. The squash, so forth. The peas. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no, that's okay, and that's the other part of it. So that compost was applied to the whole garden.
Yes.
And how that was this year or in a previous year?
No, that was this year.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's possible that we've got some crops that have germinated and done well, and then others that could possibly be affected by that situation. And so you didn't get any carrot seed to come up at all,
Or beets.
Right.
Yeah. And I chose a beet seed that I've been successful with over past number of years.
So do you have any seed left?
Yes, I do.
Try sowing that in just some potting soil, or just take some soil from somewhere else and sow that seed just to make sure that it germinates.
Okay.
That's
and
a good
then
plan.
we can maybe figure out, and even take some soil from the garden if you have a flat or a pot.
Yep.
And just take some soil from the garden, sow some more seed, and take some different soil,
Right.
sow the seed.
2 different plots, and we turn you into
Yep.
a scientist. How
Yes.
about that?
Okay, well, that sounds interesting.
And let's see what happens.
Okay.
Oh, I've got another word too. Bemused. How's that?
That's great.
All right.
Have a great day.
Hey, you too. But so he brings up a good question there about use of compost. We just did a online farm food safety training for Food Safety Modernization Act. Yes, the last 2 days, and it was an online class. And one of the segments that we do talk about in there is soil amendments. And so this possibly could be an example of just that, where we don't know what's in that soil amendment. So in this case, it's compost, but that compost comes from quite a variety of sources. And then you have you have grass clippings, you have, shrubbery, woody material. All that stuff gets compiled together, ground up,
Home food
chipped,
waste.
home food waste, yeah, all those things.
So before we put it on our gardens or anywhere, should we get that tested to see what's actually in it?
Well, and it's probably cost.
Is that possible?
It's possible, but it's pretty cost prohibitive because you have to know. You would have to tell the lab what you wanted it tested for, and to do a general screening of chemicals is very expensive. Even if you narrow it down, it's pretty costly. So in this case, it's probably not possible to really tease that out. It might be where we choose to use that type of compost, maybe only in ornamental planting beds, where shrubs and trees and things are, versus in the vegetable garden, where we're growing crops that we will consume.
That's all pretty interesting.
So yeah, so there, and especially some of the lawn herbicides and things. Some of those there's specific materials that can have a longer half-life. Yeah. They might persist for a year or even 2 years. On that material, even though as it breaks down, it still has residual effects. So
Yeah.
we just need to be cautious about that.
All righty, we will do that. Maybe we'll explore that further in a future program, too.
All right.
He's Bob Pollock, the Extension Service. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.